Welcome back. Today we have with us a very special guest. Actually, she is a human development expert, Dr. Samah Khamis, and we were talking during the break about what is it about when it comes to codependency. This is something very, very important because for me, even in the very beginning, I was talking to Karim, what is it about? And you know, we have many things when it comes to codependency, because some people, they believe it has to do also only with the gambling or alcoholic addiction or something like this. And now the doctor, she told us something that is completely different. And we have many things to be discussed. Actually, it looks like most of us, we have this codependency. If I'm wrong, just correct me. But first, good morning, doctor.
Good morning. Good morning. So yes, codependency, first let's define it. Codependency is a sickness, or it is some kind of disorder that it has been realized and brought about to light only recently. And one of those prominent figures in the field is Melody Beatty. She's a US professor and psychologist, and she's the one who actually started this whole issue. By examining certain behavior, social behavior, she found out that some people, they just dissolve. They completely dissolve. The character, the personality dissolves in others. At this point, she realized that there's something wrong there, and something needs to be fixed. So by examining the behavior, we came up with the notion or the idea of codependency, which is a disorder most of us are unaware of. That's very true.
Yes, and also if you can tell us more about how can someone be diagnosed of codependence? Are there any tangible symptoms?
That's very true, yes. First of all, codependent person cannot find his own identity except by existing through others. So, and this is strikingly acceptable in our society. Like, for example, this mother figure who does everything she can to help her kids. This in itself is acceptable, and it is preferable. However, if I only exist and entirely exist through my children or my spouse or my parents or whoever, if my existence equals this and that, then there is a problem here. I should exist on my own first. It does not mean selfishness. It does not mean at all being selfish or self-centered. It may sound like that, but it is not. The point is that I have to understand myself first. I have to accept myself. I have to love myself, to care for myself in a healthy way that brings me some kind of self-confidence and some kind of inner serenity. And then I start understanding others and giving them within boundaries.
Maybe to be capable of giving others.
Exactly.
Because if I'm not like this, I won't be able to help or support. But you know something, I don't know, all of us, we have this, and we don't feel it. Just as you mentioned, for example,
That's
most
very
of
true.
us, we feel our existence through just giving all our time, supporting our children, our home in general, spouse. This is normal.
It is. That is why codependency...
How can I realize that I have a problem?
That's a very good question. Codependency is one of the most difficult disorders to be diagnosed, and for the person himself to realize that he has such a sickness or disorder.
Can I ask why?
Yeah, because it is socially acceptable, because she just said that it is normal. So we may think that this is a normal way of loving.
If I didn't do it, I will feel guilty.
Exactly, because our society tends to nurture this in us. But actually the point is there is a thin line between being a well-balanced person who gives love and at the same time can ask for love. If you have these boundaries, if you can ask for the person to do this or do that in a relationship, then you're on a healthy boundary. But if you find yourself tending to do everything you can to please that other person, if you find yourself merged in an unhealthy relationship where you are being abused, or even psychologically abused, or being used, or being...
I call it emotional abuse.
Exactly. If such a relationship exists and you're incapable of pulling yourself out of it because you feel that this is your role to give more, to support the person, you cannot see yourself out of this relationship, then here is a warning sign that there is something wrong here. So again, for example, this kind of mother who gives everything she has for the kids, which is so far so good, but do you have any idea what you want? What if, God forbid, anything happens? Let's say even your kids got married. Would you still feel fulfilled? Would you still feel whole or not? If the answer is no, and you always need them around, you're always depending on them to make you feel that you exist, then there is something wrong there. So that's This is why one of the major things that we need to handle is the awareness. The person has to be aware to realize that there is something wrong there. I'm not happy, and still I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm using myself. I'm being abused by others, and still I'm not doing anything about it.
So in other words, you're trying to say that some mothers are encouraging codependence.
That's very true.
And they're unaware of it.
That's very true. Let me tell you how it started. A child would start with this codependency disability or disorder when he is usually raised in a family where he cannot find unconditional love. So this is how it all starts. If I am receiving this kind of conditional love, like for example, if the mother always tells her son or daughter that you need to do this so that I would love you more. Excellent, you're such a good girl because you did this and that. You scored a great mark
Using
on the exam.
reinforcements or incentives, yes.
It's always that the child will always see himself loved or appreciated because of whatever. Whereas the kid and the child needs to feel that he is unconditionally loved. When you're raised in such an environment where there are always conditions for your love, what happens is that you stop people pleasing, which is again one of the symptoms of codependency. That this person always pleases others at the cost of himself. He always feels that he's insecure. I should always do something.
Allow me, because here we have another problem. Others. Because if you're talking about partners, for example, whether I'm talking about the male or female, he or she, they are used that other person will do anything to please them.
Exactly.
And they will never try to please him or her.
Exactly.
And this is going to be another issue, very difficult one.
Very true. Strikingly, surprisingly, the ones who are suffering from codependency, they always tend to be in a relationship with narcissists, people who are so self-centered and they abuse others. So it's very strange. You might think that a codependent might need a person who is so loving and caring. No, usually because this is how he suffered from his primary family, then he finds himself indulged in a relationship where he would also suffer. So it's an endless cycle of suffering. Yeah, which is again a pity. But we fall into this, like again a mother who does everything for the child, and then the child abuses her or mistreats her. If she cannot put a stand there.
When he grows older, he will ask for a wife that is going to be dedicated to him and his children just as his mother.
Exactly. And then you grow a narcissist there at home. But the mother has to stand. If you can actually set boundaries and you can say, no, you're not allowed to do this, you should act or behave in a certain way, then you may not be classified as a codependent. But a codependent cannot set boundaries usually.
So what are the precautions that you advise our viewers to do?
First thing is you need to love yourself unconditionally, which is again a bit difficult, but I need to love myself the way I am, the way I look, the way I behave, and I need to find some kind of unconditional love from others, like I should not always feel that I have to pay for people to love me. That's one thing. Another thing is I need to examine my life. I need to be honest with myself and examine things. Am I really satisfied in all kinds of relationships that I have in my life or not? Do I really go way beyond my limits to please others or not? Do I accept unacceptable behavior from others and I feel like I should take whatever it takes to please others or not? But these questions are very important to make you realize whether you're codependent or not. Another thing here, since we are on TV, the media has a major role in this because we lived all our lives watching films, listening to songs that nurture the idea of codependency and makes it acceptable. So at the end of the day, you tend to behave this way without realizing it. By the way, it's a subconscious disorder, which makes it very difficult to realize because you're programmed subconsciously into this kind of behavior. So the films that we watch, all romantic movies, or most of them, they enhance this idea of you need to sacrifice yourself for this other person, and that is a good thing.
We started to enjoy it.
Exactly, and the songs. Plenty of them that would tell you that my life would end without you. And that is not right, by the way. I have to have, yes, I will be, of course, in pain if I end a relationship, especially a love relationship. But, again, I should exist. I have my own needs. I have my own life. I have my own standards and views and ambitions. And, but, yes, I am hurt, but I exist. But if I do not exist except through another person, then there is a problem here.
This is something very important because, just as I mentioned, for example, some people now, they are, if not all of the people around, feelings. That's why I was interested in this more than gambling and alcoholic
Exactly.
addiction, because it looks like all of us, we need support. And unfortunately, no one seeks the support.
Yes, exactly. You need to ask. You need to know. First of all, you need to realize what you need, and then you need to know how
Because
to ask.
sometimes
for
if
your
I'm going to do this, for example, it might, maybe I would lose people around me because they are used to this. It is not that easy to convince them or to just to start to think about yourself, because you are not used to this all throughout your life.
You don't need to focus on others. The first step should be focus on yourself.
But others, we are talking about members of the same family. At home.
The first thing you need to do is, again, to revisit how your life is, and you start slowly. You cannot just change everything, especially in a family frame, all of a sudden. You have to start it one step at a time. But the first thing you need to do is realize that you need to love yourself. You need to ask for unconditional love and respect. You have to set your own boundaries, which is very important.
Very interesting, but unfortunately we're running out of time, but we really do appreciate your insight, Dr. Samah Khamis, human development expert. Thank you so much for joining us on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with this, we come to the end of our breakfast show for today. Thank you all for joining us. And remember to join us again tomorrow for more on The Breakfast Show. Till then, stay tuned on Now TV International.
This is goodbye.